Welcome back to Jarrett 306. This weekend with the WWF, or as the kids and people of today call it, the WWE, that just performed the 39th annual SummerSlam weekend on Saturday and Sunday. I thought it'd only be appropriate to do reviews of what is the evolution of pro wrestling films in Hollywood. Now, there's two things that all of you guys know that I speak about on this podcast, and that is movies and professional wrestling. You know, well, here we are to discuss the movies that I believe are the evolution of pro wrestling films in Hollywood, and the ones that are more significant. And I'll give you a reason. I'll get you into the reasons why I believe they're that significant. So here we are. Without further ado, here you go. The Wrestler, 1974, starring Ed Asner and Vern Gagne. Now, Ed Asner plays a promoter that it has decided, a wrestling promoter that decides to take a stand against the gamblers, the fight fixers, mobsters, and crooked promoters that want to fix fights. So obviously, this is still during the time in which professional wrestling was protecting kayfabe. And for those of you that are wrestling fans, you know what that means. But for those of you that aren't, kayfabe is the idea that you know you protect the fact that fights are not fixed, that wrestling matches and endings, the finishes are not fixed, so on and so forth. And you want people to believe that this is a real sport. That's what's really happening out there. Anyways, the promoter Frank Bass, played by Ed Asner. Ed Asner was the one that voiced, to you kids out there, he's the one that voiced the Carl in Up, the old man that was the lead of Up. And that in the Pixar film, he's a fantastic character actor that has been around for decades. Nevertheless, Bass rallies around behind an aging champion played by Vern Gagne, the legitimate two-time NCAA champion and 10-time American Wrestling Association AWA heavyweight champion. He was also the AWA trainer at the time, trainer of legends, actually. He trained Ric Flair and many more legends. Just look it up. These guys, a laundry list of greats that he trained. And also, he was the AWA promoter at that time. Okay. What I liked about this film is that I like to see legends perform in the ring and on screen, such as Vern Gagne, Ric Flair, Superstar Billy Graham, Dusty Rhodes, Dory Funk Jr., Ken Patera, Billy Robinson, and Dick Murdoch. And it was also really, really cool to see the 1970s wrestling style. It's very, like, those matches are completely different than what you're going to see on a pay-per-view in this day and age. What I also loved about this, especially, and this is why I think this movie is particularly important to the evolution of wrestling and the history of wrestling, is that when Frank Bass, the promoter, meets with a group of promoters played by actual NWA, National Wrestling Alliance promoters, as well as the WWF, Worldwide Wrestling Federation promoter, Vincent J. McMahon. Now, if that name sounds familiar, he's the father of Vincent K. McMahon, the one that we all know as Mr. McMahon in the modern WWF, WWE. He's the one that created everything that wrestling is today. Well, these promoters were getting together to speak about creating a Super Bowl of wrestling. Now we know all about that now, but back then it was just a suggestion to get people from all the territories, the top guys, and bring them in and create a super show. Well, that actually did come to take place 3 times in the 80s, with all the 3 major promotions at the time having their variation. The NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, had Starrcade in 1983. That was the very first super show. In 1985, the WWF had what we know as WrestleMania. And it late '85, AWA, the American Wrestling Association, had what was known as Super Clash. So, and I'll tell you what. I'll give you three. I'll give you three chances, and the first two don't count. Guess which one is the one that's still happening today. You all know. Things I didn't like about this movie is that honestly it was shot very poorly, especially the wrestling matches. It was sad. It was great to see 70s style wrestling and a different style of wrestling that I didn't necessarily grow up with, but I've researched and so on and so forth to see how different those matches were compared to the 80s, 90s, current time, especially. Uh, but they were shot so poorly, and the movie was shot so poorly, acted so poorly. None of these guys are Dwayne the Rock Johnson or um, Dave Bautista or John Cena or even Roddy Piper, who's done some real legitimate movies. If you haven't seen John Carpenter's They Live, you haven't lived until you see They Live. Well, let's just say that much, pun intended. All right. Also, it was simply an advertisement for the American Wrestling Association to promote them as the best league and to promote Vern Gagne as the greatest wrestler in the world. Was he the greatest wrestler in the world? He was. He was one of them at that time, and he was definitely one of the greatest trainers and promoters at that time. Greatest though? Well, look it up. The history will tell you, and it's very much up for debate. So I'll just leave it at that. So, the next movie, Body Slam, 1986. Now, this film was directed by stuntman turned director Hal Needham, who not only he was on a streak. He did Smokey and the Bandit, Hooper, and the Cannonball Run. Now, those films are great films, very funny films. Um, Films about being on the road and being chased by the cops and stuff. A lot of real fun and a lot of real humor going on there. It was fantastic. And yet he decided that he's going to make now a wrestling movie, and starring Dirk Benedict, Roddy Piper, and the Tonga Kid. Now, Dirk Benedict, he was a television actor, kind of a television star, actually. He was the face man on the A-Team, the original A-Team, which was a huge show at the time in the 80s. And he was also on the original Battlestar Galactica. Now, upon meeting and mistaking them, Harry Smilik was a agent for musicians, and he was a talent agent for musicians, and he was kind of floundering. His career was kind of he figured that I need to get a good gig going. I know I can, and then he can make it back. And he was fast talking, used car salesman type of guy. Smile at you, you end up liking him, but you can't trust him. All right. So by mistake, he mistakes a couple of professional wrestlers when they say that they fill arenas and that they're a big draw. And played who was Quick Rick Roberts, played by the legendary Canadian wrestler Roddy Piper, WWF Hall of Famer and one of the greatest of all time, in bar none. And his tag team wrestler Tonga Tom, played by the Tonga Kid, who was also known as Tama of the Islanders, who teamed up with Haku in WWF in the late 1980s. On a side note, I saw the Islanders against the British Bulldogs June of 1988 at Sass Place, the very first house show that WWF ever did in Saskatchewan. And I'll tell you one thing, I was going nuts because the British Bulldogs were my guys, and also I turned to my sister at the time and said, "Hey, I saw that guy on TV. I saw him on a movie." Well, anyways, Now, Harry decides to create a road show with musical acts, musical rock acts playing at professional wrestling events, and it's drawn a lot of attention, a lot of people, a lot of money, so on and so forth. And this culminates with this tag team getting an opportunity to take on the AWA tag team champions Axe and Hammer, known as the Cannibals. And what what I did really like about this movie is that it was actual wrestling matches being filmed properly for once, and cinematically too, and also in the crowd you had legends such as Ric Flair, Classic Freddie Blassie, and the living legend Bruno Sammartino. But it was good up to that point. But on the flip side to all that, again, it was simply an ad for the AWA. And even worse, it was an opportunity for the AWA to take credit for the rock and wrestling era. And I'm sorry, everybody knows that WWF created the rock and wrestling era, especially with WrestleMania, with their connection to Cyndi Lauper, who brought them a connection to MTV, because she was one of the biggest female acts at that time in all the world. And and she was even ringside against with in the corner of Wendy Rector when she took the title from the WWF Women's title from Fabulous Moolah when the Moolah had held that title since the '60s. So like there you go. I mean, the Rock and Wrestling era was created by the WWF. It was not created by the AWA, and I don't know why this movie wants to suggest otherwise, but there it is. There it is. And the next movie, this is the first movie out of all these that I actually got to see in the theater myself. 1989's No Holds Barred, starring Hulk Hogan. Now, it was starring Hulk Hogan as Rip, who was the WWF champion, and an unscrupulous TV executive played by Kurt Fuller, who's a great character actor. I'm sure you've seen him in Wayne's World. I'm sure you've seen him. If you just Google Kurt Fuller, you'd be like, "Oh, that guy! I've seen him in everything. He's in everything." So he plays Tom Burrell, and he wants to sign Rip to a blank check agreement to bring him onto his network, because of course in this film, Hulk Hogan is the number one television ratings draw in the world, and that's all you need to know about the fact that, of course, Vince McMahon was the executive producer on this film, because that just says it right there. I mean, right there. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, Hulk Hogan was the number one ratings draw. There you have it. When Rip rejects Burrell's offer, Burrell decides to create what is known as the Battle of the Tough Guys, which is a fighting league that precedes the UFC. And at the time, it was interesting, because this isn't like I was going in thinking this is going to be a wrestling film, but now we saw, aside from the opening bout that Hulk Hogan had, we're seeing fights, and some of them are fights to the death, or at least it's ambiguous to whether or not somebody actually died. You would watch that and go, I think that guy's dead now. Anyways. So what happened was is at their very first tournament, a huge, large, muscular guy played by Tommy Tiny Lister. Rest in peace, Tiny Lister. If you don't know him, he was Debo in Friday. That's what he's best known for. But in this movie, he was Zeus. Zeus goes through opponent after opponent at this tournament, and then opponent after opponent in Battle of the Tough Guy fights, and this culminates to a big main event that is Zeus versus Rip, because, like I said, Tom Burrell, no matter what, he had to have Rip on his network, no matter what. And if he's not gonna do business with them, he's gonna have him on his neck to destroy him. And that culminates in a fight with Rip versus Zeus, and again, like I said, it's not a wrestling match. It's a fight to the death. This one actually is very quizzical to me because it's starring the biggest professional wrestler in the world playing a professional wrestler, but who has to get into the world of fighting. Okay, so what I liked about this movie is that the opening match with Rip Hulk Hogan against Jake Bullet, who was played by Bill Eddy, who was AKA Demolition Axe, one of the greatest tag teams that it was ever a part of the WWF, and the champions at that time. So they were the best in the world at that time. It was nice to see a match filmed very, again, cinematically. It's always fantastic to see that because it looks different than it does on TV because they find the angles and inside the ring and so on and so forth that makes it look wonderful. The other thing I really liked about this film, and I'm gonna put this one with a just wait, and that is the brave attempt by Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan to make Hulk Hogan the next big action star in Hollywood, to make him the next Arnold Schwarzenegger, the next Sylvester Stallone, whoever it was at the time. And also the brave attempt to not only make him an action star, to make him a leading man, and to make him a romantic lead. Okay? The Hulk Hogan brand was a big deal in not only in wrestling at that time, but the Hulk Hogan brand was one of the biggest brands in pop culture in the whole world in 1989. You could go to all four corners of the earth and say Hulk Hogan, and people know exactly who you're talking about, no matter what language they speak. They would know, oh, wrestling. Yeah, he was huge. But what I didn't like, and this is where I said the but on the flip side to what I just said, this is simply a vehicle to make Hulk Hogan the next big thing in Hollywood. And I'm sorry, Hulk Hogan just can't act. He's a terrible actor. He is not, as I said earlier, he is not Dwayne the Rock Johnson. He is not Dave Bautista. He is not John Cena. He's not even Roddy Piper. He's not even Chris Jericho, who's done some television and some movies. I mean, he doesn't even compare to any of those guys. And sorry, either you can act or you can't. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Other thing I really didn't like is that this was not a wrestling movie. Like I said already, it was a movie. There was a wrestling match at the beginning of the movie for 2 minutes, and then the rest of the thing, they were fights, and some of them to the death. I think people actually, in the story, I think people actually died. And the main event was not even in a professional wrestling ring. It was in an octagon-style ring that had ropes and stuff like that, the bounce and everything. But the point is that it was a fight, and it was possibly to the death. Like, I don't know if Zeus died or not at the end. It's possible. So, there you go. There it is. There it is. And the next movie, Ready to Rumble, 2000. Now, this one's kind of an interesting one because this one wasn't actually written from the perspective of the promoters, the professional wrestlers. This one's actually written from the perspective, at least for the most part, from the fans, and that's what makes this one a little bit different than the others. David Arquette is Gordy. Scott Kahn is Sean, and they're a couple of losers. And professional wrestling is their entire life. That's everything and anything to them. They don't talk about or think about anything else. And now, there are people that are like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, if wrestling's your bag, or music's your bag, or TV or movies is your bag, or video games, whatever. That's fun. I mean, movies and wrestling is my bag. I mean, so hey, whatever. But the thing is that's everything to them. That's all they talk about. What happens is that they finally get to go to a WCW World Championship Wrestling show in which Jimmy King, who is their favorite and who is undefeated up until this moment, uh, gets screwed out of his championship by Diamond Dallas Page and a crooked promoter, Titus Sinclair, played by Joe Pantoliano. And if you ask me, part of this story is, I think bleeds into the real world of the Montreal Screwjob 1997. If you don't know about that, look up, go on your Netflix, find Survivor Series 1997, watch the main event between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. You'll know the Screwjob. Professional wrestling fans, you know all about what I'm talking about here. Anyways, so what happens is that Gordy and Shawn, Jimmy King goes into the hiding, so Gordy and Shawn decided to seek out Jimmy King, who is played by the great character actor Oliver Platt. I just want to say on a side note, Oliver Platt had to do his own professional wrestling stunts for a lot of the scenes and a lot of the moments in this movie, and I got to give him a lot of credit. He looked like a professional wrestler. When you had the camera up close to him and you saw the moves that he was doing, he took this shit seriously and he did it right. He wasn't pretending. He was really actually working, and that's a talent that not a lot of people have. And I'll give him a lot of credit for that. Okay. Also, so when Gordy and Shawn they finally find Jimmy King hiding out, they say, we want to bring you back, and we want you to form a posse and go back and get your title from Diamond Dallas Page. Which again, this movie is again another movie that's protecting kayfabe, just like all the other ones I was telling you about. Making it everything that's happening is real, okay, or at least wrestling is real or whatever. There's no fix. It's a shoot. So what happens is Gordy and Shawn take Jimmy King first to see an old school wrestler by the name of Sal Mandini, played by Martin Landau, the Oscar winner, one of the most greatest actors of all time. And if you don't know who that is, look it up. Martin Landau is one of the greatest of all time. And he represents the old school of shooters, real wrestlers, you know. He was, in my opinion, he was a composite of people such as Stu Hart and Gene LaBelle. If you don't know those names, if you're wrestling fans, you should know those names. And if you don't know those names, look up Stu Hart and Gene LaBelle. These guys were true shooters, actual wrestlers. I mean, they did pro wrestling, but they were guys that literally. Point is, if they get a hold of you, they will twist your body into pretzels that you think that your body couldn't possibly be turned into. That's how legitimate they were as wrestlers and shooters and fighters. Okay. So and eventually he gets a posse of wrestlers together and decides to go back and go after Diamond Dallas Page, challenge him, get in the ring, and get his title back. No, what I liked about this film is that it was very well shot. This one was actually one of the most well shot I've seen for wrestling matches in a cinematic universe. It was so well done. Also, there was parts and cameos by WCW wrestlers, including Bill Goldberg, Sid Vicious, Perry Saturn, Booker T, Billy Kidman, Disco Inferno, and legends, including the Macho Man Randy Savage and the man called Sting. Yes. Now, that was it was great to see. What I didn't like about this one is that, I really wanted to like this one, but the problem is that for a movie that is trying to say that wrestling fans are not stupid losers, they couldn't make the lead characters any more dumb, stupid, and loser-like and unlikable. I mean, I wanted to like these guys. They were good guys that had good intentions. They were so fucking dumb, and so it was like, it's like I said, like, just the writing was so bad that they were almost unlikable. Like, it's really hard to like those guys. Anyways, also, once again, my complaint about almost every wrestling movie is that the movie comes across as merely a 90-minute advertisement for WCW's Monday Nitro, which was, of course, their Monday night show. If you were not there in the late 90s, the Monday Night Wars between WCW World Championship Wrestling and WWF World Wrestling Federation, and then when ECW, the Extreme Championship Wrestling came along, God, that was a time to be alive, to see. Oh man, wrestling was everywhere. It was mainstream. Everywhere you walk down the street, everybody was wearing wrestling shirts because that was the thing that everybody was into. But the Monday Night Wars were huge because it went on for 83 weeks, where WCW beat WWF, almost put them out of business. But then there was a turn, and I think a lot of this started with this movie, but it got even worse when the things that happened going forward. Um, Also, the other thing was is that as a way to promote, and this is one thing that like I said was the beginning, is that as a way to promote this movie, WCW actually had David Arquette on Monday Night Raw, on their Monday night show, and they decided to make him the WCW heavyweight champion when he wasn't actually a wrestler. He was just an actor. And let me tell you, this didn't go over well with fans. I mean, this was something that they wanted to do to promote the movie. They thought people would embrace this because if David Arquette was a well-known actor and so on and so forth. And hey, Lily, okay, Lily's gonna jack my show right now. Lily, come on. This is what I have to deal with. She, Lily, hey, hey, come on, baby. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I said, that's the Lily Show Part 2 right there. Yeah, Lily. All right, so when they made David Arquette the the heavyweight champion, they thought that everybody would just embrace this because they want to, because they love the movie, they love this actor, and it actually did the exact opposite from what they intended it to do. It's been regarded as one of the worst things that has ever been seen on a professional wrestling show, but not the worst in my opinion. I'll tell you one thing: just look up the finger poke of doom. Okay, that's pretty bad. Okay, and the last one. This one, in my opinion, is the best movie that's ever been made in the subject of professional wrestling. It was the winner of the Golden Lion, which is the best picture at the 65th Venice Film Festival. The Wrestler. The Wrestler starring Mickey Rourke, Evan Rachel Wood, and Marissa Tomei. Directed by the great Darren Aronofsky. Now, Mickey Rourke, Mickey Rourke plays Randy the Ram Robinson. And he is an aging pro wrestler who, after receiving a pacemaker, is faced with what do you do now? Because his career is fading, and it may come to an end. And he was once the biggest star of the 1980s, and is now all but forgotten in the world, except for by the most hardcore and loyal pro wrestling fans. People like me, that would remember who was in the 80s, but the rest of the world would be like, well, who's that guy, and so on and so forth. So while he's contemplating his next move, he decides to pursue a relationship with an aging exotic dancer by the name of Cassidy, played by Marissa Tomei, who is an Oscar winner, and also uh, he wants to repair his relationship with his estranged daughter Stephanie, played by Evan Rachel Wood. after an opportunity to do a 20th anniversary match against his greatest rival, the Ayatollah, played by Ernest the Cap Miller, who is a WCW and WWF wrestler, also a three-time world karate champion, legit fighter. Um, he figures, he goes, you know what? If I do this, this is my way for one more run. I get back on top, and then I can leave the way I want to. What happens is that during this match, it leads to one of the saddest endings in a movie that I have ever seen. And I never saw it coming when I went and saw it in the theater. It was. I'm not going to ruin the ending because you know what? I'm gonna actually challenge you guys to watch The Wrestler and say, watch that. That when you see it, you'll be like, that's terrible. I don't cry at movies very often, but this one got me. This one got me. This one got me right there. I'm gonna just like. So what I like about this film, for once, it was a movie that was not promoting any wrestler or any league, even though there was actually a partnership with ROH, the Ring of Honor, and that's what I loved about this film is that okay, you would watch the matches and if you look at the ring apron, you would say okay, that's a Ring of Honor show, but not once do they ever say Ring of Honor, and not once do they ever say any names of any of the other wrestlers except for the ones that Randy the Ram is facing. So you know when they're having conversations about this is what we're going to do in the match, right? Secondly, the use of Bruce Springsteen's "The Wrestler," the song. When the credits are rolling at the very end, Bruce Springsteen was asked by Mickey Rourke to write a song for this movie, and he wrote a song about what it's like to be an aging wrestler and what it's like to suffer for your art and give your body for the enjoyment of the crowd. It's a fantastic song, and as you guys already know, Bruce Springsteen is my favorite of all time. So how great was it when I found out? Okay, wrestling movie, check. Not going to be promoted in leagues. It's just going to be an actual story. Check. Bruce Springsteen. Check. Oh my God, I couldn't believe that. What was also great was that there was a great variety of matches that were filmed, and they were filmed better than any other movie ever made. Darren Aronofsky is a fucking genius, man. This guy knows how to get a story across. I mean, when he was asked why professional wrestling, he said because it's a subject that's virtually untouched by Hollywood. And as I've showed you here, there's very few films that have ever been about it. But this one actually wasn't a movie about professional wrestling. It was a movie about a professional wrestler, and so that made it a character study and a first-person study. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody has ever made a movie like that. And what I loved about it is that they used ROH wrestlers and indie wrestlers that instead of using, World Wrestling Federation, WWE wrestlers, they decided, let's go to the ones that are hungry. They would want to be in a film. They would want to show their stuff off because by showing their stuff off in the film, they can send that stuff out to other promoters and say, hey, look, I was in this movie, and look at this match I did in this movie, or so on and so forth. And some of the names that are here are some of the guys that are now very, very well known. Not including, but also including Necro Butcher, the Blue Meanie, Ron the Truth Killings, a.k.a. R-Truth, who's known well in the WWF, Jay Lethal, Jim Powers, Austin Aries, Claudio Castellano, who was also known as Cesaro in WWF, and amongst others. And what I didn't like about it? Not one thing. I'm sorry. This movie, from beginning to end, was fantastic. I remember my buddy, who was a huge guy who loves. Darren Aronofsky is one of his favorite directors, and he says, "What do you think about this one?" I said, I've been waiting to see this movie all my life. He goes, how do you know that? How do you know it's not going to be bad? I said, first of all, Darren Aronofsky. Secondly, it's not promoting, just like I said, it's not promoting any particular wrestling league or any particular wrestler. And third, when you really look at the story structure, it's the opposite of Rocky. Rocky was a story about a fighter that is on his way up. This was the story about a fighter that was on his way down. And that made it even more impactful, sad, and emotional when you watch it. Okay, so what I'm going to leave you with, my movie recommendation of the week. I didn't include this one because these other ones are just simply stories and scripts about professional wrestlers and professional wrestling leagues and so on and so forth. This one here is a biopic about an actual professional wrestling family, the Iron Claw, from 2023. The story of the Von Erich brothers of Texas, who their father was the promoter of WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling in Texas. This is a fantastic film. It's some of the greatest wrestling matches I've seen in films. Like to actually make realistic wrestling matches. This one was great because it was the fight choreography or the wrestling choreography was done by Chavo Guerrero Jr. And if you don't know who that is, Viva La Raza. It's Eddie Guerrero's nephew and tag team partner. Yeah, one of the great Guerreros from that family. So one great family telling a story about another family. That's kind of poetic when you think about it. First half of the movie was absolutely beautiful. It was just a rock star party from begin to end. Great wrestling matches. Look at all the fun. Everybody's having a great time. The second half of the movie, however, becomes a great tragedy. People start to die, and it takes on a whole other. It just takes on a whole other tone. I remember my buddies asking me, they said, "Well, who do you think should be the first biopic that is made about a professional wrestler? Like, should they make it about Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan or something?" And I said, if anybody's going to do anything right, they're going to make a biopic about the tragedy of the Von Erich brothers, because that's where like fact is stranger than fiction. That it's so cinematic that you couldn't deny it. It was. I remember when it happened during the '80s when it kept when it throughout 3 years you heard about all this stuff and you just shake your head. You're like, how could all of this happen in one family? It was a great film with great performances by Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White and many others. I highly recommend it. It's one of the greatest professional wrestling films that's ever made. So there it is. There is the evolution of professional wrestling. I hope you guys enjoyed the 39th annual SummerSlam weekend. And please subscribe. And once again, thank you very much. I am Jarrett 306.